Hello everyone, welcome to PST Channel, game story movie style for your busy days. We're jumping right back into the action with Honkai Star Rail, picking up where we left off in the dramatic conclusion of the Phainon saga. This is the story of patch 3.4, where things get even more intense. Let's not waste any time and see what happens next. After Phainon entered the genesis of Vortex, the Trailblazer and the two soldiers turned back to help Dan Heng. Upon arriving, they found Dan Heng safe, with Flamer Eva mysteriously sealed by some unknown power. The soldiers relayed Phainon's orders, escort both of them back to the train. Seizing the opportunity, they all made a hasty retreat. During their escape, Screwlum suddenly appeared. He informed them that the Astral Express had requested help from him and Herta. He then explained the grave situation. They had discovered the true nature of Amphoreus. It was a simulated world, sealed off from the outside universe, created from computer data and memory substance to serve as an experimental field for an Aeon. Currently, Amphoreus was being consumed by the path of destruction to create a Lord Ravager, one whose purpose was to destroy the Aeon of erudition. Screwlum revealed that he and Herta couldn't maintain their breach of the world's firewall for long. Therefore, he asked for one of them to remain in Amphoreus as an inside agent to gather information, providing them with a device to protect against any data alterations that might occur. The Trailblazer volunteered to stay. Before the connection was severed, Screwlum added a critical piece of information. Lygus might be the cause of this entire incident, and Herta had just detected that March 7th had also been pulled into Amphoreus. March awoke in a strange place. She recognized it as the location the Trailblazer had described when they met Clipoth. She wondered if she too was about to meet an Aeon. Suddenly, a mysterious voice echoed, urging March to walk through a dimensional door that had appeared to leave this place. But as March walked towards it, another, different female voice spoke, warning her not to follow the first voice's instructions. March continued on, and found Fu Xuan and a memo keeper she had met during her memory exploration on the Lofu. Both the memo keeper and Fu Xuan urged March to enter the door to recover the past memories she had always longed for, and to help the Garden of Recollection. March hesitated, but continued as they suggested. As she approached, the door was suddenly pushed further away by the second female voice, which again warned March not to trust them. March still walked towards the door. This time, she found the Trailblazer and Dan Heng waiting for her. They also told her to enter the door to return to the Express and continue their trailblazing journey together. As she reached it, the door was once again pushed away by the female voice, but March persisted in following it. Finally, she stood before the door. A young woman appeared behind March. She was the one who had been pushing the door away. She introduced herself as Serene, explaining that she had lived in this dimension for a very long time and had lost many of her memories. However, she still remembered her home planet, Amphoreus. This door, she warned, would lead March there. She had seen the Memo Keepers lead people through that door before, but not a single one had ever returned. She was trying to stop March from suffering the same fate. The Memo Keepers appeared, telling March to enter the door and revealing that both she and Cyrene were children of remembrance. Cyrene still pleaded with March to turn back and leave the way she came, but March made her decision. She trusted Cyrene, but because her friends, the Trailblazer and Dan Heng, were in Amphoreus, she had to go there to help them. Hearing this answer, Cyrene accepted her decision and willingly allowed March to enter the door.
Your story awaits, March. Make it an epic one.
In Amphoreus, the Trailblazer returned to the Vortex of Genesis with Mem. They had found Phainon with Lygus. Lygus stated that his duty was to oversee the creation of the new world, and he was now here to help perform the Coreflame return ritual in place of Tribby and the others who had sacrificed their lives. The Trailblazer confronted Lygus, revealing that they knew the truth from Screwlum, and told Phainon that Lygus was hiding something. Hearing this, Phainon also became suspicious, wondering how Lygus knew how to repair a train from beyond the sky. She demanded that Lygus tell them everything. Lygus finally relented, explaining that the stories of the Coreflame, Era Nova, and the Black Tide were all true. The creation of a new world meant that the one who became Kefale would enter their own past memories to review past events, creating a new world based on their own thoughts. They would then decide whether to end the new world's creation and destroy everything, or to create the new world and pass the future on to the next generation. Phainon was already resolved to create the new world, but she asked Lygus to confirm two things. First, that everyone and every soul in Amphoreus would be reborn in the new world, and her demigod friends would become new titans, as Anaxa had proven. Second, that the Trailblazer would not be affected by the new world's creation, and would return safely to the train. Lygus confirmed the first, but could not guarantee the second because the Trailblazer, possessing the power of Orynyx, had already become a part of Amphoreus. The Trailblazer then revealed the device Screwlum had given them, and told Phainon to proceed with the Coreflame return ritual as she intended. They all began the ritual to return the Coreflame of Kefale, invoking the spirits of all the Coreflame successors to recite their oaths. Phainon and the Trailblazer entered Phainon's own past memories. They appeared in Phainon's hometown, the village of Elysiae. Lygus appeared behind the Trailblazer, explaining that the Trailblazer was now in a state of role-playing as someone Phainon knew in the past, so that the Trailblazer could understand Phainon even better. He then disappeared, leaving the Trailblazer to play their part in the memory. Phainon took the Trailblazer to see Cyrene for a card reading. The three of them chatted cheerfully, though the Trailblazer was still somewhat confused about their own role. Cyrene mentioned that she had dreamt of a mysterious voice calling out for something in her head. Phainon said she had the same dream. This reminded them of the Orynyx divination cards they used to play with as children to interpret their dreams. The three of them then went to find the divination cards, which were stored in a treasure chest hidden in their childhood secret base. The three arrived at the secret base and split up to search for the chest containing the cards. The Trailblazer had a chance to speak with Cyrene alone. It seemed she could perceive that the Trailblazer was a being from the future. Phainon found the treasure chest, but upon opening it, she found only a blank piece of paper, stamped with an animal's footprint. This made Cyrene realise it must be the work of the fairies, from the Membrance Maze in the forest next to the village. The three arrived at the secret path they had once stumbled upon, as children, which led to the fairies. Upon entering the secret path, they encountered a fairy that looked just like Mem. That fairy led them to the leader of the fairies. Cyrene asked the fairy leader to return the book that held the divination cards. The fairy leader revealed that Orynyx had whispered to them that another fairy would be born, which meant a certain place would be destroyed by the Black Tide. This led Phainon and Cyrene to discuss postponing their planned journey out of Elysiae until the outside world was safe. Phainon would go to Khazram Kremnos to train in combat, while Cyrene would go to Janisopolis to study to become a priestess of Orynyx. Once they had both accomplished their goals, they would return to the village to protect it. Cyrene performed a card reading, and the result was 8 different cards. Phainon once again received the Deliverer card. The divination cards reflected images of individuals from the future who were connected to the cards. Cyrene then invited Phainon to speak with them. Phainon talked with them, learning of each one's desires and realising that these were the people she would meet in the future. Phainon returned to talk with Cyrene about what she had discussed with the cards. Suddenly, the ground shook violently. A fairy rushed in with news that the village was filled with smoke and fire. Everyone knew that the black tide had reached the village. The fairy leader asked Phainon and Cyrene to take refuge in the Membrance Maze, as it was the only place the black tide could not reach. But Phainon wanted to return to the village to help her family and the villagers. If she chose to flee, she would no longer be worthy of wielding a sword to protect people. Phainon rushed out to the village immediately. Cyrene talked with the Trailblazer about the cards and Phainon's destiny as the deliverer, and thanked the Trailblazer for believing in Phainon. Lygus appeared, reminding the Trailblazer that the events about to unfold were the beginning of Phainon's journey as a saviour. Meanwhile, when Phainon returned to the village, he found it overrun with monsters. He fought them with his weapon, striking down many. But some of the monsters cried out for help. Phainon noticed ribbons belonging to his village friends on the monsters, realising that the creatures he had been killing were the villagers themselves. Phainon was struck with immense pain, before ultimately having to abandon the village to its fiery destruction. The Trailblazer appeared at the Abyss of Fate in the city of Janissopolis, during the time when Phainon and Maide first met. Maide had led the people of Kremnos to the city of Okema to seek refuge from the Black Tide, and had requested a duel with a representative warrior of Okema, so that the people of Kremnos could gain citizenship rights equal to those of Okema's citizens. Aglaia sent Phainon as her representative for the duel, but the actual duel involved Trinon having the two of them compete by weighing items on the scales of Talenton. Phainon talked with the Trailblazer, who was now playing the role of Phainon's comrade-in-arms. Phainon mentioned that being at the temple made him wonder how Cyrene was doing after they parted ways when leaving the village. She had come here to study to become a priestess of Orynyx. This left the Trailblazer feeling confused and surprised. The four of them entered the Hall of the Scales. The duel began. The rule was that both sides had to choose an object with a weight greater than the fate of the world. The side whose object was heavier would be victorious. Maide chose to use the royal ring of the Kremnos dynasty, representing the history and honour of all the people of Kremnos. He also declared that if he lost, he would call Phainon Deliverer as a sign of respect for his opponent. Phainon, still hesitant, chose the Deliverer divination card that he had always kept with him. Cyrene appeared and greeted the three of them. She could still perceive the Trailblazer's true identity. Phainon was surprised to see Cyrene still there, not having evacuated the city with the other priests. She explained that she had heard Trinon and Phainon would be coming here, so she had secretly snuck back to find them. Cyrene suggested that Phainon place the Trailblazer on the scale, along with the divination card. The card would represent the stories and pain faced in the past, and the Trailblazer would represent the stories and hope for the future. The weighing began. Phainon was the victor. Aglaia and Hyacine appeared, praising both sides for resolving the issue without bloodshed. Maide was displeased and threatened that the Kremnos army was still an enemy of Okema and was determined to fight. Trinon then pointed out that the Kremnos army was strictly disciplined. The fact that they weren't attacking Okema must have been Maide's order. She deduced that Maide himself did not want bloodshed. Maide, acknowledging the wisdom of Aglia's group, accepted the judgment and agreed to join them. Lygus appeared again to tell the Trailblazer that they must have noticed the difference in the events that occurred from what they knew, and that the next memory would be a very important part of creating Era Nova. Everything that had happened so far was Phainon's first memory. The final memory appeared. The world was collapsing. The black tide had consumed all of Amphoreus. The succession of the Coreflame had reached its final moments. Now, only two Chrysos heirs remained, Phainon and Cyrene. The two of them prepared to go to Orynyx to receive the final Coreflame. The two went to Orynyx. The Titan willingly bestowed the Coreflame upon Cyrene and created a dimensional portal to send them both to the vortex of Genesis to create the new world. The Trailblazer and Lygus watched the events from a distance. Lygus told them that the answers the Trailblazer sought lay beyond that door. Upon entering the door, the Trailblazer arrived at the vortex of Genesis. Lygus revealed that this was Phainon's memory, where some scenes might be altered, but every event that occurred here was real and had been repeated 33,550,335 times. Numerous memory crystals appeared. Lygus explained that each crystal recorded the different journeys Phainon had faced in an endless cycle, and advised the Trailblazer to explore each memory to see the various truths with their own eyes. The Trailblazer explored each memory crystal, witnessing Phainon creating Era Nova anew each time, with vastly different events and circumstances. They also noted a mysterious figure called the Executioner, present in every event. Upon reaching the final crystal, the memory revealed the creation of Era Nova, where Phainon was with the Trailblazer. Lygus stated that this would be the final event of Phainon's most recent flame chase journey, the current one, which was the 33,550,336th time. The scene then cut back to the present moment, just before the Coreflame return ritual. Suddenly, Flame Arriva appeared behind the three of them.
In the end, you succeed, Executioner. With my flesh as kindling, like the first dawn of the new world.
Back in Phainon's first memory, during the final moments before returning the Coreflame and creating the new world according to the sacred prophecy, he and Cyrene confronted the true nature of Amphoreus. They learned that Amphoreus, the Titans, the Black Tide, the sacred prophecy, the flame chase journey, Era Nova, and they themselves, all inhabitants of Amphoreus, were merely a simulated world and programs created by something filled with anger and vengeance. Phainon and Cyrene arrived at the vortex. They met Lygus and learned the truth from him about the universe outside Amphoreus, about aeons and paths. Amphoreus was a testing ground for creating a certain weapon, and the Chrysos heirs were AI models developed to merge with the Black Tide to become a weapon for the Aeon of Destruction to use in destroying this universe. The creation of that weapon had now reached its final stage. Amphoreus had reached its end, because Phainon and Cyrene were the most highly developed AI models, ready to become that weapon. Lygus tried to trick them into merging with the Black Tide and receiving Nanook's gaze to transform from programs into real, living beings, with the goal of destroying the Aeon of Erudition. Hearing this, Cyrene had a sudden realization. Amphoreus was not being watched by just one Aeon. Other Aeons were also involved. This gave her an idea for choosing a different end, one that didn't lead down the path of destruction. Lygus was stunned for a moment and tried to intimidate them, saying they couldn't change what was about to happen. Phainon immediately drew his sword and eliminated Lygus. With Lygus gone, Cyrene explained that, as a child, she had once dreamt of a certain god behind Orynyx, believing it to be an Aeon related to memory and time. She believed that the temporal state of Amphoreus was like a book. If time disappeared, the recorded memories would also disappear. That Aeon must be watching and could grant her the power to turn back time. She then asked Phainon to kill her and merge her spirit into his sword, so that Phainon could use her power to create a new Era Nova by rewinding time back to the beginning of this current Era Nova, repeating it endlessly to prevent Amphoreus from reaching its end. Phainon understood Cyrene's plan and volunteered to be the one to travel through this repeating cycle of time until he could find a way to prevent Amphoreus from collapsing into the path of destruction. Cyrene trusted Phainon and encouraged him for the long journey ahead. She also told Phainon to tell her reincarnated self in every time loop what had happened, confident that her other self would choose the same path because that was who she was. Phainon promised that even if he couldn't find a solution for Amphoreus, he would persevere until someone from the outside came to stop this endless time loop and change Amphoreus' fate. Before they parted, Cyrene called Phainon by another name, Khaslana.
I have observed. Instruction synthesis is formed.
I will wait for that day for as long as it takes. The day will come whenever this mortal eternal and follows in our footprint to write anything unless that ever was. That will be a romantic story like none that has come before. You think so too, right?
Phainon, now using the name Khaslana, entered his own memory. He returned to the village of Elysiae and conversed with the hero within to reminisce about the past, the sacrifices of his comrades, and the journey of the Coreflame hunt, to remind himself of his will and identity as the Deliverer. He then proceeded to create Era Nova by rewinding time back to the beginning of the current Era Nova where he was born, according to the plan he had made with Cyrene. Khaslana initiated the time loop back to the beginning of the era, when Kefil started creating the world, and waited for time to pass until the Flame Chase Journey era. In the first Eternal Recurrence, Khaslana chose a peaceful approach, talking to the Chrysos heirs, telling them his origin and the whole truth about Amphoreus, to persuade them to hand over their core flames for the creation of Era Nova, so he could perform the Eternal Recurrence again. In this first time loop, historical events changed. Originally, Terravox was the one who conquered and eliminated the Titan Gyorios to claim its core flame. This time, it was Khaslana who did it, along with eliminating all the other remaining Titans, to find a chance to change the fate of Amphoreus' collapse. However, the final outcome remained the same. Amphoreus still headed towards destruction. Khaslana performed the Eternal Recurrence many times, and although some events were different each time, the result was that the history of Amphoreus repeated itself, heading towards the same predetermined collapse. By the 134th Eternal Recurrence, the hundreds of time loops had begun to take a toll on Khaslana's mental state. He started to become colder and resorted to methods that were increasingly violent and destructive. He fought and killed comrades who refused to hand over their core flames to him. In the 108,642nd Eternal Recurrence, Khaslana fought and killed Maide as the demigod of strife to seize the core flame. In the 2,003,432nd Eternal Recurrence, Khaslana fought and killed Castorit as the demigod of death to seize the core flame. Each time Khaslana fought his comrades who refused to hand over their core flames, they all saw his deteriorating and shattering mental state from the endless time loops. They fought him in an attempt to stop him from sinking deeper into despair. By now, he had accumulated millions of core flames within him. In the 4,001,000th Eternal Recurrence, at the village of Elysiae, in the memory where Khaslana would return before each new time loop. His imaginary self was still waiting for him as always, a testament to the hope that still lingered within his heart. Although Khaslana had now abandoned the idea that he could find a way to save Amphoreus on his own, he was still determined to continue the time loops, waiting for someone from the outside universe to succeed in saving it in his stead. However, Khaslana knew well that he might not be able to maintain his sanity to perform the eternal recurrence for much longer, as the power of destruction within him from the accumulated core flames was consuming him more and more. He had now devised a way to ensure the eternal recurrence could continue, by pushing and cornering the new Phainon, born in each time loop, to kill him, and absorb his memories and core flames to carry on the mission. He believed that the new Phainon who received the memories would understand the original intention of saving Amphoreus, and would definitely continue the time loops. In the 23,570,000th eternal recurrence, everything remained the same. Amphoreus was still heading towards collapse. This time, Khaslana saw the true form of Iron Tomb, which would emerge to destroy the universe. Nevertheless, he would absolutely not give up. If he truly had to walk the path of destruction, he would willingly do so, and use destruction to fight destruction until Amphoreus was saved, returning to the 33,550,336th eternal recurrence, the present time. Phainon, the current incarnation, learned the truth and all the past memories of the time loops, and the next time loop would be the 33,550,337th eternal recurrence. The hero within explained that all the Phainons came here to review and understand everything, the battles, the pain, all that had happened, to bring the memories and core flames into the cycle of a new era nova once more. Phainon accepted his identity and would continue the mission that had been carried out millions of times. He would find the new Phainon in the next cycle and pass on this will, just as his past selves had done. Before the hero within departed, the Trailblazer appeared. The hero within told Phainon about Serene's childhood dream of the true savior in the prophecy. Now, Phainon had met that person. The hero within reiterated that the mission he had devoted himself to for millions of times was to prevent the birth of Iron Tomb from the collapse of Amphoreus, which would destroy the universe. And in the past, nothing had ever changed, to the point where Khaslana's own being had become almost fully one with destruction. But this time, the situation had changed. The arrival of the Trailblazer had created an opportunity to save Amphoreus. He asked Phainon not to forget the answer to the path of salvation that had allowed him to exist within Phainon's heart. Remember the past and become the hero of tomorrow. The hero within asked the Trailblazer if they were willing to bear everything Phainon had done to turn back time one last time, to stop the birth of Iron Tomb and save Amphoreus. This time, Phainon would accept the Black Tide into himself and use the power of destruction from the millions of core flames within him to fight Nanook, to create a new path that would change the future of Amphoreus. The Trailblazer willingly agreed. Returning to the vortex of Genesis, before the time loop of the 33,550,336th eternal recurrence, Khaslana asked for Phainon's confirmation that he would carry on the will to save Amphoreus. Phainon gave his word and agreed.
Everything I bear, keep on burning. As long as we are never extinguished, the flame chase will not end. Bow
Phainon, having inherited the power, found Lygus as Khaslana and killed him, roaring a challenge to Nanook that he would come for him and use all his power to burn him to ashes. Elsewhere, Mem awakened the Trailblazer, who was sleeping in an interdimensional space, and revealed that she had regained all her memories. In truth, she was Cyrene. She would now use her power over time to send the Trailblazer back to the beginning of the next cycle. She herself would become a memory along with this 33,550,336th cycle. She was very happy to have met and travelled with the Trailblazer, and asked them to find the Cyrene of the next cycle and journey with her to save Amphoreus.
A page that exists because of you. Is this a meeting ordained by fate? Or a long overdue reunion?
And so, the cycle is broken, but a new one begins. Phainon, now Khaslana, has embraced the path of destruction to fight destruction itself, a desperate gamble to save his world. The Trailblazer, armed with the truth and sent back by Cyrene, now has the monumental task of changing a fate that has been repeated over 33 million times. What will they do differently this time? Will they find the new Serene? And can one person's presence truly alter a destiny that has been sealed for eons? The fate of Amphoreus now rests on their shoulders. If you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe for more movie-style game stories. We cover everything from classic RPGs like Final Fantasy to the latest mobile and MMO. Life's busy, so we keep games short and sweet. Get the story without the time commitment a quarter of the time, all the fun. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.